The essential skill of the 21st century is the ability to effectively process life. People who are stressed not because their life is inherently stressful, but because they have an ineffective system for processing life. Let me use an analogy. In the past few years, as many restaurants have used the all-you-can-eat concept, they're selling the promise of unlimited food, yet realistically, how many people can eat more than one normal sized dinner? Even though the opportunity is there to eat all you can, our digestive capacity limits our consumption. In just the same way, our emotional digestive system limits our consumption of life. So we can only experience as much as we're able to consume. Life might bring us an unlimited buffet of possibilities. It's the ultimate all-you-can-eat buffet. However, because we clog up our emotional digestive system with undigested emotions about what happened last week, about what someone said yesterday, about what we're worried about next week, we don't have the ability to take in enough new, fresh experiences. So every day there's hundreds of opportunities in front of us. There's people who would make great lovers, who would make great friends. There's business opportunities that could fulfill us. There's that have the potential to bring us great wealth. There's activities that would thrill us. There's people, there's situations and books that hold the solutions to problems that we're grappling with. But we're so consumed with our ex, our shitty job, our poverty and our boring life that we don't even notice that the potential is in these situations. The 20th century made more progress over the material world than the rest of the entire 7,000 years since the birth of civilization. It changed the entire nature of the potential of life and the possibilities that we can envisage. And it made these changes largely through advances in manufacturing processes. A manufacturing process is the sequence of tasks and events that have to happen for a bunch of raw materials to be turned into a finished product that someone wants to buy. If you look at cars, at the beginning of the century, 20th century, just a few cars a day were made. It was time consuming, it was labour intensive, and it was a very expensive process. But by the end of the century, the 20th century, the incremental time and expense of each car's production was a fraction of what it had been. There's millions of cars being made a year. In all kinds of industries and all kinds of areas, streamlined production has made available products that once were prohibitively expensive, and they're available in the mass market. Yet what is to come in our century will make the changes in the last look pedestrian. The skill of the 21st century isn't going to be about the processing of physical resources. It's going to be emotional resources. Growth in all of its forms, personal, economic, social, spiritual, is limited by consumption. If we don't have the ability to pay attention, we won't buy it, interact with it, or learn from it. Just as the body needs nutrients from food to fuel its growth and maintain its health, our mind needs the experiences and ideas that life stimulates us to grow to the next level of evolution. And so our growth is limited by our ability to process and digest the events of life emotionally and free our attention to consume more. So the skill of the 21st century will be the speed with which we can digest experiences, how quickly we can get past feelings of anger, frustration, bitterness and disappointment. We almost always get over these feelings, but it's just that we usually hold on to them for days or weeks. And just as it's a danger to your health to have a clogged up physical digestion, it's a danger to your emotional well-being to have a clogged up emotional system. Your mind needs fresh thoughts as much as your body needs fresh nutrients. There's a constant, never-ending supply of ideas and experiences just clamouring to be digested. But the bottleneck comes in your ability to digest those emotions. And so they pile up, which then seems overwhelming and is what most people define as stress. We have to improve our emotional digestive system to get up with the pace with the speed of light today. Just like the physical process of a factory floor where there's certain tasks, to digest emotionally there's a certain sequence and a certain processes that have to be gone through to get to the finished product, which in this case the finished product is the experience broken down into meanings and stored memories. It's cleared from your conscious attention just like the physical materials are cleared from the factory floor. Then it gets filed away into a data bank of past experiences and memories that you can pull from when you need to. The defining skill of the 21st century will be the speed that you can move an experience from present to past. It's this ability that will determine the velocity of your life experience. What I mean by that is the number of experiences that you encounter, which really is a measure of your openness and acceptance of life, which comes down to the fundamental question of life. Am I here to devour life or cringe and hide from life? The faster that you can process negative experiences, the quicker you remove them from your experience and move on. And it tends to be negative experiences that grab your attention and clog up your digestive system for longer. Pleasant experiences typically tend to zip through, and part of that is because of the freshness. Part of the pleasure from them comes from the freshness. So going back to the title, let's get a definition of stress. Stress is the conscious awareness of a thought. But maybe you think that seems a little extreme. But the idea is, when you're enthralled with life, you lose self-consciousness. You don't stop to think about what you're thinking about or how you feel about what you're thinking about. And once you have a conscious thought in your mind, you start to limit your capacity. And the limiting of your capacity is the origin of stress. If you've read any of the traditional, conventional views of stress, you'll know that it's typically referred to as exceeding the individual's capacity to cope. If you it's easy to tackle the fire when it's a spark, but when it's a raging inferno, it becomes a much bigger deal. So the key to managing stress is to never let it build up to a state where you lose your ability to think and deal with things clearly. To develop a more effective digestive system is advanced stress management. It avoids stress building up and taking control of your emotional well-being. But you might say, isn't it necessary to think? Of course. But the quicker that you can get the thought off your mind and processed, the quicker you are free to fully engage with the next situation or idea. What happens too often is that we're still thinking about the last scene when the play of life has moved on to the next scene. In the next few days and weeks, we'll be discussing how to develop a better system to digest life and so enjoy it more.